Podcasting 101 with me, your host, Rachel. This podcast is for female business owners and solopreneurs that are looking to start a podcast that adds to your own already awesome offering. I'll give you helpful advice that you can take away and use in your podcasting journey. I hope to answer those tricky questions that just keep you from starting. Once a month, I'll be joined by other female podcasters. They'll share their journey with you and offer tips and advice they discovered along the way. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Podcasting 101 with Rachel. This week, I am going to be talking about how you publish your podcast episodes. This means the platform on which you will upload your episodes to, and then they are then distributed to different listening apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, things like that. You may have already chosen your publishing platform when you decided on how you were going to record your episodes, so you recording them and publishing them all in the same place. But if you haven't already done that, here are just some things that you need to think about. You need to think about cost. Is this platform going to cost you any money? As I mentioned before, Anchor is a free platform, but as with all free platforms, you have limited features on those things. So you wouldn't have, there are some analytics in Anchor, but you could get more detailed analytics. You could get help with monetization and things like that are a little bit more specific. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about Captivate, which is what I use to publish my podcast. You need to do research. I looked at lots of different podcast hosting platforms and compared the features and thought, well, is this for me? As I may have already mentioned before, when I released my first podcast, the Virtually Inspiring Podcast, that was hosted on Anchor because that was kind of the first hosting platform that I'd come across. And then it kind of started from there. So some of the sites that I looked at were Libsyn, Buzzsprout. I've recently discovered Alitu, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, if you listened before, Anchor. They offer different price points for each of these different platforms. I will put a link to those sites in the show notes so you can check them out for yourself. I don't know anyone that's used Buzzsprout, but I do know somebody that's used Libsyn and they highly recommend it. They love Libsyn. And Lorna Taylor from Tales from the Gram, who will be on as a guest in a few weeks, she uses Alitu, which is a paid platform. She can record and upload and use that platform all in one place. And that is about £30 or $30 a month. But yeah, check out the link in the show notes and you'll be able to find out all that information for yourself. As I mentioned, from my research that I did and choosing a hosting platform, I decided that I wanted to invest some money into my podcasting and go with someone that's has paid features, has extra things for me to use. So when I chose Captivate, I pay £17 a month for my package. I get features like guest booking. So you have a special booking link that you can send out to your guests, and then you can customize the information that you want them to share with you. For example, if you want them to share their social links, a bit about them, their website, things like that, then they can share that when they make the booking, and then that automatically comes into Captivate, and there is functionality to add that to an episode, which makes it really easy to add their information. You don't actually have to physically type it in yourself, which is really good. There's a new episode planning feature, which I absolutely love. So I was doing this myself in a Word document. So I've already mapped out all my the titles for my episodes in my planning phases, but I haven't specifically planned out each episode what I'm going to say. So I don't script my episodes, as I've said before, but I do have recording notes. So I was doing this in a Word document and then using those to when I record and then converting those, helping that to convert them into show notes. But within the Captivate platform, there is this episode planning feature. I'm looking at it right now as we speak because I have my episode notes. And what also is really brilliant is you can add research links. So as I've mentioned, in the show notes, there'll be a link for Libsyn and Buzzsprout pricing and Captivate to show you, so you can find those things. What I can actually do is add those links into the platform and then select which links I want to come up. And when I convert my planned episode into an actual episode, it will transfer that information so I don't have to put it in again. It makes it so easy. And then they automatically show up in the show notes. Brilliant. Absolutely streamlines everything, which I think is Captivate's aim. What else is there? I have a customizable podcast player. So with the account, you get a website for your podcast. So you've got a landing page where you can have a player for your all the episodes that show up there, or the show notes show up there. You can customize all of this in your brand colors, which is really helpful. So you can just share the link to this website page. You can go there and all of your episodes are on there. All the show notes, you can share from there. You can follow. You can put some external links on there. So I have some external links to my freebie. I mean, they are in my show notes as well, but it's just an extra little feature that they have, like for links, and you can see that on the podcast player, which I really like. There is auto distribution to certain platforms, and then if they don't auto distribute to that platform, there is an easy link there to create an account for yourself and register your podcast. So, for example, with Spotify is auto distribution to Spotify from Captivate. But for Google Podcasts and for Apple Podcasts, there isn't. So what they do, they have the link there. So you click on the link and it takes you to the login page where you would create an account for yourself if you haven't already got one. You can copy the RSS feed before you click on the link. So the RSS feed is, so you would have to have a published episode of your podcast to distribute this. So this is when it's quite handy to use your trailer for this. So if you have a trailer and you publish that, that is the RSS feed for your podcast. So then you can then use that to make sure that that your podcast is then linked up to all the other listening platforms. So you use that RSS feed, and that is what pulls all your information across to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, to Stitcher, all those other listening platforms, and that's where it has all your show notes and all the information. Oh, and just for FYI, just for information, Apple Podcasts is not iTunes. Apparently it used to be iTunes, but if you're looking for your podcast on iTunes, you will not find it. It is specifically under Apple Podcasts, and you need a Connect account, an Apple Connect account, to register your RSS feed. So just want to make that clear, because I know that somebody asked me once they couldn't find their podcast because it was on iTunes, but it's not on iTunes, it's Apple Podcasts. So they have separated that now. There are other platforms, some of the ones I mentioned, Stitcher before. There's Deezer, Player FM, Podcast Index, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts. There are quite a few. Some of these, if you are registered with Apple Podcasts, they will automatically put you in some of these smaller ones. I mean, me personally, I have an Android phone and I listen to most of my podcasts on either Google Podcasts or Spotify on the app on my phone. I don't have Apple Podcasts available to me unless I listen to the episode on a laptop, which is very rare for me. So these other podcast listening apps, you know, it depends on personal, it's user choice, isn't it? So when it comes to choosing a platform, I think you have to choose a platform which is good for you. I mean, I love Captivate and that works really well for me and what I want to do, but that might not necessarily be the same for you. So I don't want to say you have to use Captivate because, you know, that might not be the right fit for you, and you have to fit the software to fit your business. Don't try and shoehorn yourself into something that doesn't really fit. And that goes for lots of different things for your business. So if you have a podcast manager, I would ask them for their advice. They can give you some advice on what their clients use and what they have used in the past. And as I said before, you just need to do research, really. There are certain comparison sites that are really helpful, and read some blogs, and then just make your decision from there. If you do have any questions about this, or you've used one of the platforms I've mentioned and can offer some feedback, then please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Next week, I am going to have the brilliant Helen Calvert on the show, and she will be talking about her podcasting journey to creating the No Bullshit Guide to a Happier Life podcast. It is a brilliant chat, and Helen was absolutely brilliant to speak to. So I'm really looking forward to other people hearing this episode. Catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please like, share and subscribe. Your support means so much to me. If there's a question or topic you'd like covering, then I'd love to hear from you. Find the podcast on Instagram @RachelBotfield and drop me a DM. Till next time, bye.